I'm Marian Walter. You're listening to the Staking Mondays podcast here on Staking Rewards. My extra special guests this week are Pelle Merkedal Larsen and Tudor Paul Thoma from Tencent Cloud. Tencent is a publicly traded company focused on bringing high quality and engaging internet services and entertainment to its users. Tencent Cloud wants to provide Web3-friendly cloud services for providers. They are also pro-sponsors for the world's first staking summit powered by Staking Rewards in Lisbon, Portugal, on the 8th of November this year. Pelle is the Director of Web3 Business Development and Partnerships in Europe. Before he joined Tencent, he worked for Microsoft and led business development for cloud and AI in Western Europe. He was also part of the task force responsible for rolling out various blockchains on Azure services from 2016 onwards, working with partners and customers to pilot. Tudor works as a cloud solution architect. He has a lot of experience in this field and before Tencent has built enterprise cloud solutions at CloudReach. Today, we are going to talk about why cloud providers are an important layer for staking providers and how Tencent wants to expand the diversity of cloud services. Pelle and Tudor, welcome to the Staking Mondays.
Thank you.
Tell us a little bit about yourselves, how you started out of education to where you are now.
Should I go first? I graduated as a lawyer, actually, and got into the internet sort of early around .com era. Found it more interesting on the business side than sort of the pure legal side. I did a couple of projects already in the space while I was studying, and then sort of it was a gradual transition basically. And I started out as a consultant, then I did an MBA, then I worked a few years in marketing, moved to strategy and business development, always around the internet, and working for telcos like Vodafone. And here I really worked on sort of launching internet businesses. So I think most notably, I'm one of the co-founders of an online-only mobile operator in the Netherlands called Hollands Nieuw, which is today also still part of Vodafone's business there. And basically after some 10 years, then I decided to move back to tech proper. And I joined Microsoft in Singapore, where I was at that time. And from there, I started leading business development for cloud and AI products, and that was basically in emerging markets focused, and like Africa, LATAM, Eastern Europe. And there, among others, I ended up working with the blockchain product team, so building blockchain services on Azure, and basically that's around then when I got hooked onto the blockchain space. And then fast forward, and here I am now.
And you, Tudor?
Hi. So I guess it started immediately after college. I had no break from the learning, and I started to work as a network engineer. I actually worked for like 5-6 years for Allied Healthys and Cisco partners. So I was very into the networking field, core networking. And right around 2010, I actually started more in sysadmin, virtualization, and cloud concepts, because obviously it was when it all started. So my next jobs and my past experiences since then are only in this field. So with Huawei, with Orange, with Vodafone, and my latest one with CloudReach, and obviously now in Tencent Cloud, but essentially doing the same thing, going into cloud business. Yeah.
And when did you two first go into crypto, let's say with your own purse? When did you first buy any crypto? And more importantly, when did you start staking, if you did already?
That's a good one. I got introduced to the blockchain space about 2015 or so, while I was in Singapore. And it's sort of after sort of getting into it, and my wife listened to my sermons about how this is going to change the internet, and then I didn't really know how. Basically, that was quite clear. But she bought me a book on Ethereum, which is written by Henning Diedrich, who was back then the IBM liaison to the Ethereum Foundation. And that was really a great eye opener for me to smart contracts and dApps, basically. And then shortly after that, I had a fortune to attend a talk by Vitalik, actually, and it was kind of crazy because that was really in the early days. There was maybe like 30 people in the room. There was a bunch of guys from some of the larger exchanges, some of the other protocols and startups in the space. And then there was a couple of random interested people like myself, basically. And that was really when I was hooked. And then I started attending crypto events. And then I also started investing. And my first investments was in Ethereum. Of course, after that start, basically.
Yeah, that's a funny story. I actually had I got introduced very early on, so I actually heard about it upon launch. End of 2009, and 2010 I actually mined Bitcoin with my laptop in my spare time. And yeah, guess what? As most of people who were early investors, let's say, or miners, I actually sold unreasonably early and low. So, but that actually got stuck with me, and I continued to be interested in the space. I was around about the ICO of Ethereum, which seemed like the next gen blockchain. And since then, I also got hooked in the ICO space, and it's like this. I've learned a lot about blockchain, about the technologies, and obviously the promises, of the ICOs. So I actually participated in some of them, like Binance and Zilliqa and Icon and others. So I've been around for a while. I've been working also on some trading bots and some scripts trying to predict the market. Obviously, not accurate, but also I've fiddled slightly with smart contracts. So since then I'm let's say more or less invested as well, not only in terms of financial investment, but also in terms of time. So I'm doing also a lot of staking, delegated and solo. I'm doing also some, let's say, liquidity pools on Uniswap, on ZealSwap, and others. So I'm trying to be active as much as possible in the space. Yeah.
And then when did you first stake?
I think before the staking, there was this concept. I'm not sure if you remember. It was called masternodes, and they were a sort of you deposit a collateral. Based on the collateral, you receive something back if the masternode is active. So this was around 2015. So I guess around that time. Because then, the real concept of proof of stake got a bit more crystallized over the years. So it's somehow it went from the masternode idea to the proof of stake. I tried since the beginning, not also successful, but I mainly staked on Cosmos, on Keep network, Bluzel, if I remember. And on Ethereum as well.
Mm-hmm. Now, moving more towards Tencent and your role there, what you have in mind with the company. I think our watchers and audience will be super interested in what's going on there, since you're moving into the market. So, why is Tencent Cloud going into Web3?
I will take that one. I think so. I think there's two sides to it. So if we look first, basically, where is Tencent going as such, and based on, you can say, what our experiences are so far. So Tencent has been around in this space and Web3 for a long while in China, where we have our roots, obviously. And so we have built a lot of experience building blockchain solutions, both sort of enterprise consortium chains, and we're also behind, so supporting some of the largest NFT platforms that you have in the space as well. We've also built solutions for some of the largest exchanges out there, ranging also, every covering basically a lot of the layers, also working all the way to then basically there was sort of on and off, you would say, that we had these engagements. And so in parallel with that, then we have this vision of what's called immersive convergence, which you can think of as our version of the metaverse, that was outlined by our founder and CEO. And that sort of has crystallized also in parallel. And about 10 months ago or so, the leadership really started discussing, like, should we invest more directly into the Web3 space and form a dedicated Web3 effort also inside Tencent Cloud. And so that's basically what we did in September, launched it as a global effort, and is basically now early days in terms of a bet on the space as a vertical. You can see it basically at the same level as any other industry like banking or finance or manufacturing or whatever. So Web3 is actually elevated to that status within Tencent Cloud now. And then, so the other side of it is, so having built all of these internet and consumer experiences for a while on Tencent Cloud, powering basically Tencent's solutions, much in the same way that you can say Amazon built cloud in order to drive its retail experiences. So we actually have a lot of experience in building that, and we have a lot of assets that can be used now basically in terms of building the metaverse, of which Web3 is a key element, right, as well. So first of all, like, we are a major resource provider. We have data centers, we have compute power, so we have storage, and basically we can contribute to the compute power overall. So therefore, you can also do staking, you can do staking pools, etc. And so if we look at Web3, then you can also see it, you know, that it's a decentralized web of applications. And so we really saw the opportunity of helping to build this new universe. And because we have built for ourselves, we now also in the position that we can help others speed up basically entering that space. So summarizing it, you basically see we saw the opportunity, like, we can help people make it easier and faster to develop Web3 experiences and make them interactive. We can help further the decentralization by introducing more infrastructure alternatives into the space. And that's something I think we'll come back to basically around centralization as sort of an issue. And we can make it a safer space also overall. So I think it's clear that a lot of people are working on sort of creating a better UI and more security in order to bring Web3 more mainstream. So I would say that summarizes it.
Mm-hmm. So then digging a little bit deeper on it, what exactly are you building and for whom are you building it at Tencent Cloud?
Yeah, I guess, so I guess I would start with for whom are we building it? Because in the Web3 space, you have various players from infrastructure layer to up to application layer, right? So in order to provide this end user experience, you obviously need this blockchain infrastructure to exist. So I would say the first category that we build for is the node operators. So we want to be part of the, let's say, the node pool for the large public chains, first of all, and contribute to decentralization. And obviously, our services want to help these node operators or node, let's say, partners, staking partners, and we will provide the infrastructure for them and infrastructure services. So not only pure compute, pure storage, but also that pool of tools and images and everything else. Then the next category that I would say is important for us, as Pele mentioned, is actually the application builders, right? So actually they are the developers on the Web3, and here I would say that in the area of tooling, in the area of DevOps, of application development environment, as well as in the direction of partnering with various companies here to provide these tools. And we also are trying to, as much as possible, to learn from the services that we provide in China. And in China, actually, this let's say this metaverse service pool is a bit more developed. So we do have there the managed consortium blockchains. They are available as a service, as a managed service. We have all sorts of upper layer managed services as decentralized identities, or platforms for NFTs, or for building NFTs, for minting, or all sorts of asset building and management for metaverse. And yeah, we want to also have this end user service stack that is available for the public chains, and obviously there's a lot of room to grow here. I hope that answers the question.
Mm-hmm. Then what specific issues and problems did you see in the market, and how do you want to solve them?
Right. If I can take this one too. So yeah, there are a lot of challenges here. Starting with the obvious ones, like the security of the whole space. The permanent fear of cryptojacking, of scams, of rug pulls, of not investing your development time where you should, of creating decentralized apps on the wrong chain, etc. More, let's say, infrastructure challenges like for staking nodes, which includes, for example, the delivery of a staking node or a node in the network, because it requires experience not only with the system itself, but also with running the infrastructure, with securing the infrastructure, as well as the cost of running that staking node. Fear of slashing, for example, due to uptime or due to availability of service. And in general, the big challenge here, since Ethereum went to proof of stake, the big challenge is to keep Ethereum as a public blockchain, which has the first rule, let's say, as decentralization. So the fear is now not to have Ethereum being so centralized, because most of the people are delegating instead of having, so then spreading this delegation on top of more platform would make sense. So these are kind of the challenges. Also, the fact that in terms of developers, it's also a bit hard to get into the Web3 concept, right? You always have a mess in terms of tools, in terms of which chain to start with, which there are a lot of questions, which SDK, for example. So, we don't have a lot of past experience with Web3. It's a very new concept. People are learning now. So we want to be also in the space where we help by pre-building some services, by offering a bit and increasing the level of adoption, especially for development in this space. So again, from infrastructure, from this decentralization to providing an environment for application development.
Then maybe, Pelle, if you could drill down a little bit deeper into how Tencent Cloud is contributing to decentralization now and how it can do in the future.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, as you can hear from Tudor also, like I think that is so one of the sort of greatest challenges that you see, particularly in the Ethereum universe as well. I recently, when Messari brought out some data also on this, you could really see that if you look at the network, the Ethereum network, then it's highly concentrated. So you've got like 70% of the Ethereum nodes that are hosted in data centers, and then if you look at that 70%, then you have sort of 4 providers that account for 81% of that also. And if you look at newer chains like Solana, basically, you have an even more centralized picture here. So you've got like 95% of those are hosted in data centers, and you've got about 72% of it, which are exactly the same providers that you had in the Ethereum space as well. So and I think also from a concentration of assets point of view, also like so everyone is sort of more likely to mainstream getting into this and delegate so their crypto assets basically, then you're going to see even more concentration also as well. So I think that's a big strategic question. So how we can help is obviously we can help staking operators and so expanding the geographic coverage and offering them infrastructure alternatives. So that basically reduces the risk overall, and it helps you reduce the reliance also on a few and single providers in the space. I think going forward, so as Tudor also kind of alluded to, like we also dare to co-build products and services that will make it easier, more efficient for staking operators to go about their business as well. And obviously we are new here, and so that's where we are on the beginning of a learning journey. But we are definitely keen on inviting partnerships here also, and that's something that we can talk about also a bit later.
Okay, so on the most fundamental level, the case is that most of staking is happening in cloud servers. And for these cloud servers, you have basically 4 providers dominating the industry right now. And with Tencent Cloud, there would be a new alternative with a lot of, let's say, experience from existing operations. So at least there's one additional competitor there, you would say, an additional service operator there. Is that correct?
Yes. And with, I would also put it right, so a philosophy of embracing this fully and going into the space also with partnership so in mind, and wanting to further the space as well. So I think when we would sort of compare it maybe to others that have sort of either been the default choice basically for development as well, where there is maybe not so much of a commitment to the space also.
Got it. Then how is Tencent Cloud especially committed to Web3? Like it says that it's Web3 friendly.
Yeah, I think I can take that one also, and so it's, I think at this point in time, as we said, it's early days, right? So this is more in terms of the way that you can see it basically in terms of how I talked about it. It's aligned to our strategy. It's how we see the internet evolving into this so Web3 powered metaverse, where you have decentralized ownership of asset and identity, and all those things that come with it as well. So we are fully committed to that vision. And that means also that we are actively building for Web3, and our product teams are already out there, and so we are talking to Web3 developers in the space also on how we can support them better than what they are now being. So we clearly want to build dedicated products for Web3 developers as well. So in that sense, our attitude is Web3 friendly, right? We also invite partners to come to us with requirements, and we're more than happy to look at co-building solutions with them for the specific challenges that they are facing also. And then if we sort of boil it down or go down basically also in terms of sort of pure infrastructure, we are also starting to do a number of things differently than other providers in the space, and investigating this a bit from ground up basically, and look at so how we can drive efficiencies and sort of new ways of configuring infrastructure, of leveraging infrastructure also that can make us more efficient. And that through that also we are also able to just say have a better environmental footprint. We can pass on some of those cost savings also to developers in the market.
On the environmental footprint, could a case be made for more ESG friendliness as well using Tencent Cloud?
I think so, yes. So at this point in time, so specifically when we look at the energy efficiency, that is where basically, you know, if you measure efficiency of a data center, you have something called the PUE coefficient, which basically is a measure for like how much compute power you get out of a data center, compared to how much power, pure electricity power that you're putting into it.
What does PUE stand for?
So power usage efficiency.
Got it.
So basically that's a number that goes anywhere from 1 to 4, where basically 1 is the best and 4 is, you can say, the worst. And so where you look typically at data centers, you are somewhere at an average of 2 to 2.5, all the way up to 3 in some cases, basically. And so we have worked consistently to reduce our or increase our efficiency. And so our number has gone basically down from starting already very good at 1.8 to now being 1.2 for some of the newest data centers that we have, and we are working on improving that. So that I think is just alone basically compared to others. And then I think in general, like you would say that virtualization as a technology is probably more energy efficient than dedicated, and so therefore like cloud is more environmental friendly from a footprint perspective. Mm-hmm. There are other things that you want to consider as well, basically, but that is a fact.
Maybe Tudor, could you walk us through which exact services and products you are offering, just to make it very hands-on and clear for our listeners?
Okay, I assume for the whole Web3 space, right?
Yeah. Going
through the whole stack. Mm-hmm. This might take a while, but yeah, we're a hyperscaler public cloud provider. So we obviously want to offer and to be present in this space as much as possible to offer the foundation, the technological foundation for metaverse and Web3 apps. So here I'm talking in general, going from lower layers of the stack to highest layers where the the actual app is being developed, the actual API is posted, and the application is used by the user. So here we have a very, very large spectrum and array of services that we can actually offer. And yeah, for metaverse, the obvious ones are things like the usage of graphic cards to produce the rendering of virtual worlds, of virtual assets as well. You have the communication means, and here we go from the simple SMS, email, to more managed services for media, so transmitting real-time or streaming the audio and the video. You have also all sorts of services for managing the distributed assets and the distributed traffic. And that, as an infrastructure for a cloud provider, is very important. And this is actually the idea behind also the decentralization, the power of running your app, not necessarily in one fixed location, but making use of the existence of multiple and global providers. If we go a bit in terms of, let's say, a lower layer, yes, we have data centers. We provide the classical compute storage network, but in Tencent Cloud, we actually offer a very large array of compute options, from physical machine, bare metal, to virtual machines, containers, dedicated hosts, to functions. So they are based on multiple types of architectures, the classical x86 or ARMs or the GPUs. So they're available, from console, from CLI scripted. So the classical way of deploying today cloud infrastructure. And it's not only a compute out there, so it's not running like a VPS, a virtual private server, which is an isolated instance consuming resources of a machine. They are integrated instances with other services. So for example, with object storage, with blob storage, with scaling groups, and all sorts of services that provide and enhance the functionality of that compute. Okay, so for any use case that doesn't require pure access to resources, then a virtual machine a cloud virtual machine would obviously be of more use. And not to mention that it is an on-demand resource that you can turn on and off as you please, not by hand, but obviously in an automated way. So obviously makes very, very efficient use of resources. Okay. Also, if we stick in this space, going a bit lower down the stack to node operators. So the node operators are always facing the same issue, maintaining a cost per compute, and also trying to scale and to enhance their services. So they are walking a fine line of trying to match these two worlds. So what we want to bring here is we want to bring a suite of service that help the staking operators to enhance and to obviously to improve this balance, the ratio, by providing, for example, things like pre-baked images for popular chains, by providing tools, for example, by providing a place where they can share their service, like for example a marketplace, or to integrate into one of our services. So there are a lot of ways for staking operators to actually work with public cloud providers, and that's where we want to work and enhance this collaboration. Moving a bit up the stack, so in terms of decentralized apps and Web3 apps, we're talking about a concept that is and has to be cloud native, right? Because you want to have a development environment that you can spin in minutes. You want to write a smart contract based on some SDKs which runs on some functions that you don't have to worry about, right? So as a developer, you don't want to worry about these things, right? You want to create decentralized apps. You want to focus on the end user and the providing of that app. So as a cloud provider, as a managed service provider that we are, we want to work in these specific areas and provide the developers this means to create better apps. And here comes all the suite of services that help the developers in public cloud, from security to managed services as well, controlling the cost, controlling environment deployment, etc. Many ways here to help them. Also, we do have some, let's say, some additions that are specific to blockchains, like, for example, the addition of or the management of wallet keys as a managed service, so you don't have to, every time to need a wallet. So if you want to test an app, you need a let's say Bitcoin or an Ethereum wallet. You can create it very fast, in a managed way. You have a low-level encryption that you can also apply. So a lot of things that will help them. Going a bit in the direction of already built apps and let's say the building blocks of the metaverse. Here you go in the areas that I mentioned before of creating and using the parallel processing and the compute to create the metaverse, right? So to render assets, to render worlds, to render all sorts of items there, and this computing power has to be on demand, right? I'm not sure how many companies in this world can afford to actually purchase tens or hundreds of GPUs just to render once or twice, or one time a month. So obviously, this is a concept that has to be an on-demand type, and there are so many similar use cases for GPUs. So that is also a service that we provide in all the regions. Also, in terms of media, so our media services are among the best in the world. So we have public recognition that our implementation, for example, of transcoding codecs is always on the first, let's say, 3 in the world, and this is something that our company has invested a lot in, and Pele, I think, already mentioned that we've actually taken the extra step to take this, and implement it. So here I would say that it makes sense to also add the media services on the list, because they are very important. And all sorts of let's say large array of services, from services that are dedicated for gaming, for example, because gaming in the metaverse is a huge part, and not talking here only about the classical gaming, but also the cloud rendering, cloud gaming that we have so much experience with. And that's basically just a bit of a scratch of the surface in terms of offerings. Behind the things that I told you, there is a large suite of services, from basic ones to, for example, content distribution, that is very important, and where Tencent Cloud is actually a leader here. So I hope this answers the question.
And then when you are looking to enter this space, offering cloud services to staking providers, could you walk our audience through how you see the landscape of major markets, let's say North America, Europe, and so on? Who are the competitors? What are the problems you're facing when you try to enter the market, and what's your approach to win the market? So I'm asking it in a way that you walk us through the map, the mental map that you have of the staking cloud services world.
Okay. Let's try to do this also briefly. So we're in the beginning as well of it as well. So by no means does this mean that this is our view, and it is formed on the hypothesis that say that we have formed as well. So I would put it this way, that if we look at the top 50 list, basically, so we see that if we rank them by AUM, basically assets under management, also by value, then we see that it's dominated by US and European companies. So you basically have your top 5, which are either large US global companies that is coming from exchange background, or so Chinese founded, as in the case of Binance. That also obviously is the largest staking provider now. And then you sort of get outside of that, and you have the next 10 of those are basically predominantly European founded and European focused, also with a view to now globalize. So and so, like, there's a few basically outside of that which are Korean or from Singapore, basically. So inside there, but the picture that emerges is kind of that. This is our picture, that the Europe and the US in some regards so are more mature markets, if you can talk about that in this context, also. And we have sort of Asia that is emerging here, actually. And then that actually to us is an interesting situation, because so we think that there is an opportunity for European and US players to go to this nascent market, where arguably you have a lot of potential for assets coming into so crypto and digital assets, basically. And there is definitely also an appetite for that also. But for various reasons, then the market is not yet as developed. So we think that, so being strong in Asia, particularly from our background, basically, that we have a potential here to work with some of these with the US and European companies, and leverage the strengths that we have in Asia also, to go to markets potentially together there also. So and if we look at it from a from an infrastructure point of view, so that's the asset view, right? And if you look at it from the infrastructure point of view, also, like, we see a spectrum of approaches in the market. So as I said, like, we started talking to a number of people in the space, and we see really the spectrum ranging from sort of bare metal purists on one side. I want nothing between me and the machine, and having spent time basically on working through configuration very deeply and having a very fine-tuned operation that they now basically want to keep. And there's always risk, right, involved in changing your infrastructure setup. And then it spans over basically to more hybrid approaches that we've seen, where you're also more embracing cloud for specific purposes, where it makes sense, basically. And then all the way into where you have people that fully have embraced cloud and are basically looking at containerization and very quick deployment of nodes on different clouds, and basically reducing the risk by being multi-cloud and being as mobile, so as you are, basically, right, in that situation also. So so a bit like our working hypothesis is also that there's a level of maturity also in coming into the market that is reflected here. And some of the conclusion that people made about cloud perhaps in the past were sort of based on facts that are changing, and that I would also put it as that we are changing also. So we are, as Tudor has alluded to, like, we are doing things differently than other cloud providers. We are beginning with that as well. And so we are also inviting so people in the space to rethink, basically, or at least have a second look at cloud based on so the data that we can put on the table also, and the alternative that we present, because some of the assumptions that they made about what cloud is basically may not be quite correct anymore in that sense, right? Also, and through some of our work also with leading operators, we have some early verification, so of that we are on the right track as well. So that I think is sort of the summary of how we see it right now.
Mm-hmm. Then are there major different, maybe to make things more clear to users by contrast, are there major differences to other cloud providers like Hetzner or AWS? Maybe Tudor, you can take that.
Yeah, I actually get this question a lot, and yeah, I mean, in general, there's in essence there's no difference if you're going for pure resources, right? So if you go for just the compute, if you are in the staking business, then obviously price will make a difference. Localization will make a difference, and maybe features here and there, but obviously they all provide more or less the same thing. If we talk about, you mentioned Hetzner, I think it's mainly on a bare metal auction site, so they're more in the business of reselling very close to hardware, and they also have some additional services. So I wouldn't necessarily compare that with a public cloud provider, which runs more or less, let's say, most of the business runs on virtualized instances. And if we go now back to the reasons, why should you use a cloud provider and not Hetzner? I would say that there are many reasons to actually use, because unlike with bare metal, it's much easier to commission and decommission workloads on a cloud provider. It's much easier to take other services and to the advantages of a cloud provider, distributed infrastructure, scalability, a full layer of security. So these are advantages that for most of people matter. And unless you want, as Pelle said, to be very purist in terms of access to resources, then obviously cloud is the way to go. So the way we differentiate and the way we want to be differentiated is the fact that we've taken a step into, as a cloud provider, to actually make upfront investments into developing cloud business for Web3. So we want to provide this suite of services that actually serves the different layers, right? So even though companies like pure bare metal providers might be cheaper for pure hardware, we want to provide that higher level service that actually makes more sense for the development of space. So here we are basically in all the areas, and that's how we want to be differentiated by the others.
Pelle, you mentioned that one approach to entering the market is partnerships, and that you're actively looking for that. Are there some partnerships that you can already share something about? For example, stake providers already using your services?
That's a good one. So yes, it's as I mentioned, this is very clearly for us a long-term commitment, and so we are in this space also to learn, and we are beginning basically through partnerships the best, and we're actually doing really well, I would say, in terms of reaching out and in terms of getting conversations. So we are talking to several of the sort of top 50 operators that I mentioned. And in total, since September, we're probably talking to about 50 partners by now. So it's a young initiative, basically a bit over a month, but we see a lot of traction. And we have actually recently partnered with a top 20 validator as well, who has well over $1 billion in digital assets that is locked across several networks. I can't mention any names, but we're basically now helping them with the topics that we talked about before. So how do we drive decentralization? How do we help them automate their operations, leverage cloud in the ways that you can? And how are we also helping them secure the infrastructure as well, leveraging some of the experiences and sort of assets that we have built also. And as basically any infrastructure operator, as I mentioned, like, you know, you want to be careful about making changes also to that. So this actually has been going on for a while, that they have been testing our solutions, and we've been working with them for a while before they made this decision also to build on Tencent Cloud also. So yeah, it's an early indicator to us also, but we see it as a clear validation that we are on the right path and that we are doing things that resonate with the market.
So you only started last month. What are your plans for the next half year and milestones?
So in milestones, I guess we want to focus a bit on the staking market. So that being said, we want to focus on partnerships. We want to focus on creating these services that I already mentioned. So, you know, like pre-baked images for solo staking for various chains, you know, node images, and they will be, let's say, first steps into the space. And also we are receiving a lot of, let's say, requests and signals that the staking operators need a bit more tools in the data analytics. So we would definitely go there, because the moment that you have one node, it's, you know, you want to see some metrics there. The moment you have 1,000 nodes and 1,000 users, it becomes a data issue, right? So it's very, very hard to get through the data. So we want to develop some tools in this space that the staking operators can use out of the box. Let's see. We're working with the product team. That's our goal. And also, you know, in parallel, we will also develop some tools for developers of Web3 apps. Once you have the infrastructure, once you have the partnerships there, it will be sort of easier to create those environments for Web3 devs.
All right. Since I only have you for a limited amount of time, let's jump into our favorite questions that we ask all our guests. First off, tell us about some of your early mentors. Who shaped your career?
I would say for my part is quite a few to mention also. Like, I would say I've had managers who gave me a lot of freedom, and at the same time provided the right support and enablement. But actually, since I mentioned it, one of my early big influences was my board sponsor when I was at Vodafone in the Netherlands, Anagati. And she was at that time the director for the entire online business as well. And so that was basically when I was in part of the strategy team and exploring the space of cloud and how you can virtualize the telco operations as well. And so she basically brought me to agile development, which I then also used for the project, and out of that came Holland's Nieuwe as well. So I think that like she was a very big influence on my career, not only from a sort of technology perspective, but also really from a management and sort of perspective also. So yeah.
Mm-hmm. And now on books, what are some of your favorites and what are you reading right now?
Tudor, you want that one?
Yeah, I'm doing a lot of online reading, let's say, but in terms of physical books, I'm reading not a lot, but when I have time a bit away from all this, I go on a different area. So I'm quite interested in the geopolitical topics. So my latest one is actually a very good book that I recommend by Tim Marshall called Prisoners of Geography, which gives a very good, let's say, insight to visualize why the world is shaped as it is today, and explains most of the actions of that we see today happening in politics. So very interesting one. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What sort of advice would you give a recent college grad who's interested in a career in technology, cloud computing, Web3, or staking?
Should I take that one?
Okay.
Yeah, I can at least. So part of it also. So I would say really that it's common thing that I meet also with people is that they are sort of very modest and say like, well, you know, what can I contribute to the space also, and I think that's really it's a shame actually, right? Because as I learned at Microsoft, and Satya Nadella basically said that our industry does not respect tradition; it only respects innovation. And I think that's really so. That's very true. And technology is a unique space that you can come in with a fresh perspective on things. On it also, and you build something, and in a short space of time, you can actually have an impact, and you can also say change things considerably from where they are now. And so actually, if we look at the entire DeFi ecosystem, I think that's a great example of that, right? It's a multi-billion industry. Well, you know, yes, it shrank by 50% from where we were in spring to where we are now, but it's still a multi-billion-dollar industry, and in many respects, it is still also a very relevant challenger to traditional finance models that you have out there. And most people in this space are newcomers. They came with ideas, energy to build something new, and I think that that shows also that it is not sort of years of experience of doing the same necessarily that is valued in technology. And
but if graduates already, yeah. Because the question is like, if graduates already watch this stream, I think it's already like half step there. You know, they're already in the right place. Like my advice always, is to learn coding. Coding is, let's say, not so complicated. I don't want to use the word easier because it's not easy, but it's less complicated today than 10 years ago or 50 years ago. So you have so much more, resources. So it's actually not that hard, and that helps you in your life, in your thoughts, in your career, to know, that. So yeah, that's my advice.
I totally agree. This is like the two things that come together basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What do you know about the world of crypto and staking today that you wish you knew back then when you started out?
Tudor, you want to go with that one?
Buy low, sell high. No, I mean, there are a lot of things, right? And you always tend to underestimate this space, and that is maybe every person's biggest mistake, to underestimate the power of joint work, joint collaboration, and especially when it comes with an incentive, right? Because people work on incentives, and the staking idea is based on incentives and rewards. So obviously, this space was clearly much more than it used to be. So yeah, I wish maybe 5 years ago when it started, I wish I knew a bit more and maybe go a bit earlier into the space. So that's my thoughts.
All right, closing it off here. What's the best way to reach out to you, let's say a staking provider or anybody else who wants to follow you?
I can take that one. As we said, we will be a pro sponsor at the Staking Summit. So if you are there, come grab us and have a chat, basically. We will also be at Token 2049 in London, so in the following days, basically. So if you are there, that's another chance. And we will also have a booth there, so you can just walk by. Otherwise, you're free to look up us on the internet. You can look up myself or Tudor on LinkedIn, which is so another way. Also, we are more than happy to have a chat.
Great. Thank you, Pelle and Tudor, for being so generous with your time. We have been speaking with Pelle Merkedal Larsen and Tudor Paul Thoma from Tencent Cloud. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to check out on any of the previous episodes on Spotify and YouTube, and subscribe to our channel for all future episodes. We love your comments, feedback, and suggestions. You can write us at mondays@stakingrewards.com. Sign up to our State of Stake newsletter at newsletter.stakingrewards.com. And follow me on Twitter. That's Rokifehu. That's ROKIFEHU. And our team at Staking Rewards. Come visit us and the who's who of the staking industry live at the world's first staking summit, 8th of November in Lisbon, Portugal, sponsored by Tencent. Go to stakingrewards.com/summit and get your tickets now. I'm Marian Walter. You've been listening to the Staking Mondays podcast here on Staking Rewards. For Pelle, Tudor, and the audience, thanks for tuning in.